बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा जय गिरिवरधारी जय गिरिवरधारी यशोधनन्दन व्रज जन रंजन यशोधनन्दन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौर हरि बोल। हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। गुरु महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। शिवगुण प्रभु जी की जय। और ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you all devotees for joining our Srimad Bhagavatam reading morning session. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, daily Srimad Bhagavatam reading morning session. Hare Krishna. So yesterday on Thursday we have completed verse number 5.1.16. Last verse which we took was read was 16. So today we will start with verse number 17 onwards of chapter first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jamudire nashta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevya bhagavate uttamachiloke bhaktir bhavati nashtagi mugam karoti vachalam pangum langhede girim yat kripadam vande paramananda madhavam Sri Gurum Dinadarinam Sri Chaitanyam Isharam Om Jnanadvarantasya Jnananjana Chalagaya Chashuru Milidam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanyamanopistam Stapidam Yena Bhudale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Gadanti Subadandiyam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Udavadagamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sakarjadam Sakanirivadanyadam Dam Sajivam Sadvedam Savadudam Parijanasavidam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sakanalada Sri Vishakanyadamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabindhu Jagalpade Govesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostude Taptakanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhya Kripa Sindhubhya Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhudale Srimade Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nidinamine Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshadarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Om Tat Sat Hare Krishna Namo Vishnu Bala Krishna Krishna Guru Srimad Bhagavatam Swamin Nidinamine Nama Acharya Vadaya Nidaya Guru Bhakti Guru Devada Namadaya Nidaya Ramadharma Devada Swami Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Once more, welcome all devotees for our Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Hare Krishna. So, page number 17 to start today. Okay, Prabhuji, shall I start with Hare Krishna, Prabhuji?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Page number 17. Bhayam Paramattasya Vaneshwasi Syad Yadaha Sa Aste Sahasashtasapatnaha Jidendriyasyaatma Hridairbudhasya Grihashramaha Kim Nu Karotyavadyam Bhayam Premattasya Vaneshwasya Syad Yadaha Sa Aste Sahashashtasapatnaha Jidendriyasyaatma Grihashramaha Kim Nu Karotyavadyam. Hare Krishna. Translation purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Even if he goes from forest to forest, one who is not self-controlled must always fear material bondage because he is living with 6 co-wives, the mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Even householder life, however, cannot harm a self-satisfied learned man who has conquered his senses. Translation once more. Even if he goes from forest to forest, one who is not self-controlled must always fear material bondage because he is living with 6 co-wives, the mind and knowledge acquiring senses. Even householder life, however, cannot harm a self-satisfied learned man who has conquered his senses. Purport. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srila Narottama Dasa Thakura has sung Grihe Va Vanate Take Aha Gauranga Bale Beledake. Whether one is situated in the forest or at home, if he is engaged in the devotional service of Lord Chaitanya, he is a liberated person. Here, this is also repeated. For one who has not controlled his senses, going to the forest to become a so-called yogi is meaningless, because his uncontrolled mind and senses are going with him. He cannot achieve anything, even by giving up household life and staying in the forest. Formerly, many mercantile men from the country of India used to go to Bengal, and thus there is a familiar saying, if you go to Bengal, your fortune will go with you. Our first concern, therefore, should be to control the senses, and since the senses cannot be controlled unless engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, our most important duty is to engage the senses in devotional service. Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. Bhaktir Uchyate. Bhakti means engagement of the purified senses in the service of the Lord. Herein, Lord Brahma indicates that instead of going to the forest with uncontrolled senses, it is better and more secure to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Even household life can do no harm to a self-controlled person acting in this way. It cannot force him into material bondage. Srila Rupa Goswami has further enunciated this position. Iha yasya bharer dasye karmana manasa gira nikhilasu abhi avastasu jivan mukta sa uchyade. Regardless of one's circumstances, if one fully engages his activities, mind and words in the devotional service of the Lord, he should be understood to be a liberated person. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura was a responsible officer and a householder. Yet his service to the cause of expanding the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is unique. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakura says, Urdhande Driya Kala Sarpa Padali Proktada Dramstrayade. The sense organs are certainly our greatest enemies, and they are therefore compared to venomous serpents. However, it is venomous serpent is bereft of. However, if a venomous serpent is bereft of its poison fangs. Okay, of poison fangs, it is no longer fearful. Similarly, if the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, there is no need to fear their activities. The devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement move within this material world, but because their senses are fully engaged in the service of the Lord, they are always aloof from the material world. They are always living in a transcendental position. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. I hope my audio is clear, Prabhu.
Yes, very clear.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for giving this opportunity. I'm not qualified, but for my own purification, I will explain whatever is my understanding, and devotees also, please feel free to express your understanding or any queries. Hare Krishna. So we are continuing the discussion where Lord Brahma is trying to convince Maharaj Priyavata to take up the position of the king for taking care of the citizens. Because Maharaj Priyavata was very much inclined in spiritual life, he renounced and he was doing tapasya. But since the country had no no king, first his father Swayambhu Manu convinced him to take up the kingdom. Still, he was a little bit reluctant. Now, however, Lord Brahma also has come from his abode from Brahmaloka, and he is also trying to convince Maharaj Priyavata to take up the position of the king. Because why Maharaj Priyavata is so much concerned that if he is taking up this position of the king, which is a mode of enjoyment, maybe his spiritual life will be affected, his Krishna consciousness will be affected. So that's why you can see here, Lord Brahma is telling that if you are self-controlled, whoever is self-controlled, they will be unaffected, whether they are in the forest or in the family. So, continuing that, today's discussion, up to 19, verse number today, we are discussing 17. Two more verses, again, Lord Brahma is further convincing Maharaj Priyavarta. Then from 20 to 22, then Priyavarta Maharaj, based on Lord Brahma's request and conviction, he is accepting Brahma's request. So today, 17 verse, Lord Brahma is speaking. Even if he goes from forest to forest, one who is not self-controlled must always fear material bondage because he is living with the 6 co-wives. So a very important point it is said here, because in olden days, during the sannyas, people used to go to forest. In the earlier days, they used to do tapasya. But what is said here by Lord Brahma is, but if a person is going to forest also, if he is not self-controlled, what happens? He will just go there and again his mind will contemplate on sense gratification. So he must always fear material bondage because he is constantly living with 6 co-wives. 6 co-wives means, referring here, is mind and knowledge acquiring senses. That means 1 is mind and 5 jnanendriya, eye, ear, nose, tongue and skin. So these senses are actually compared to wives, including the mind, 6. So imagine a condition of a person. If he is having 1 wife and if he is having 6 wives, he will be in a very pathetic situation because he has to satisfy everyone. The eye is asking for certain enjoyment. The nose is asking for good fragrance. The ear is pulling for good music, and the skin is pulling for soft touch, like that. There is an example in the scriptures that even if one of the senses is very powerful, that will actually affect the person. For example, it is said that the deer is actually having the weakness in the ear. So when the hunter is playing the music, it will stop without running. So then the hunter, what he will do, he will release the arrow, and the deer will be killed. And the moth is very much attracted by its eyes for the fire. So whenever the moth is seeing the fire, it is very much attracted through its eyes. Then it will go and jump into the fire and will leave it alive. And the elephant is actually so much weak having for the skin sensation. So it is said that the olden days, what they will do, they will actually make the male elephant go front side, so the female elephant will follow in the forest, seeing the male elephant, and they'll make a big pit and they'll cover with the grass. So this female elephant will fall down inside, so the male elephant will fall inside, and then they will trap the elephant. That is for skin. And the tongue fish example is given, that the fish, even though there is so much things in the water body to take, when somebody is putting a bait, some worms, to catch, the fish is easily caught because of the weakness of the tongue. So tongue, ear, and the nose, actually, it is said that the bumblebee, it is actually captivated by the aroma coming from the lotus flower. So by that aroma, it will go into the lotus flower and so much intoxicated that the lotus flower will close in the evening. So next day morning, when it is opening, you can see a lot of that bees have been dead already inside the lotus flower inside. And next day morning, you can see that. So like that, the scriptures are saying, when only one sense organ is weak, they are losing their life. And imagine a human being, all his 5 sense organs are actually all powerful, very powerful, proper right in the purport, like they are like venomous serpent. So, and additional to that, there is a powerful mind. So that's why he's comparing here Lord Brahma is telling he is always living with 6 co-wives, his mind and Jnanendriyas, which is knowledge acquiring senses. So even householder life, however, cannot harm. On the other hand, there is the other way. Even if you remain as householder, the Grahastha ashram, if somebody is self-satisfied and self-controlled, then that person is not having any impact. So indirectly, Lord Brahma is telling to Priyavrata Maharaj that you are already self-controlled. So even if you accept the kingdom, you will not be affected in your spiritual life. So that is one way of convincing Priyavrata Maharaj. And continuing to Srila Prabhupada purport, Prabhupada quotes here Narottama Das Thakur Bhajan, Grihe va vane take, ha gaurange bale dake. So see, our Vaishnava bhajans have deep meaning. The entire Krishna conscious philosophy, if you see, they are all in the Vaishnava bhajans. The acharyas and the pure devotees of the Lord, they have expressed the same Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam philosophy in actually through this bhajans. So here you can see such one elevated bhajan here, where Srila Narottama Das Thakur is singing Griheva Vanetake Ha Gauranga Baledake, meaning whether one is situated in the forest or at home, wherever you are being, if someone is engaged in devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is already a liberated person. So the same point, what is said in the translation of today's verse, Prabhupada is quoting a related bhajan. For one who has not controlled his senses, going to the forest to become so-called yogi is meaningless. So Prabhupada, Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita's Mityachar. Mityachara means false pretenders. Mityachar. So they don't have proper, they are in the garb of sannyasis, but their senses are still not controlled. Nowadays we can see sometimes in the television also, there are some news coming, this Babaji did like that, he had some illegal affairs like that. Because even though they have taken the dress of sannyasi, but still because their senses are not controlled, they again fall down. But Krishna consciousness, from the beginning, it is very clearly stressed that sense control is actually foundation to progress in spiritual life. And the nectar of instruction also, first verse itself starts with that Vacho Vegam, Manaso Vegam, Jibba Vegam, Udra Prastha Vegam. So sense control is very much stressed in Krishna consciousness. And how do we control the senses? Prabhupada writes in the purport further that if you engage the senses in the service of the Lord, automatically the senses become controlled. Otherwise, artificially we cannot control the senses. And so the so-called yogi is meaningless. Why is meaningless? Because wherever this yogi is going, his uncontrolled mind and senses are going with him. So it is not that if he change the place, he will become controlled. No. As long as the mind is not controlled, or the mind and senses are not engaged in the service of the Lord, there is every chance for fall down. One example is there in Srimad Bhagavatam also, where the Saubhari, he wanted to do tapasya. And he don't want any disturbance. So he went inside the water to do tapasya so that nobody will disturb him. There is no distraction also. So in that case, you can see, even after going inside the water, he saw two fishes are mating. By seeing that mating, he suddenly got a desire to get into family life. Then he approached the king and married the daughter of the king. So that's a different story. So here, that is a practical example. Even though he was an elevated yogi, but because even though he went to a place where there will be no disturbance, there is no human interaction inside the water, and still by seeing a fish mating, his lust became provoked him. So that is what he is saying that. But even by giving household life and staying in the forest, formerly many mercantile men from upcountry of India used to go to Bengal. And thus they are familiar saying that if you go to Bengal, your fortune will go with you. So it is basically related to Prabhupada's giving example how people want to flourish in their business. They go to, like those days, Bengal was like business hub. So our first concern, therefore, should be to control the senses. So spiritual life means first it starts with controlling the senses. Prabhupada says our first concern. That's why we have these 4 regulative principles, because these 4 regulative principles help us in controlling the senses. See, Prabhupada says we don't eat outside food. You see how the senses are controlled by that. You take only prasadam. So immediately the tongue is controlled when you say prasadam, because you don't eat outside food. You only offer and take, and there are thousands and thousands of restaurants in every area. But if this prasadam concept is not there, then there is no restriction for our tongue. However you eat, in how many restaurants, the tongue will not be satisfied. And there is no end to that desire. That's why you can see every day so many restaurants are opened in small area. Maybe there is 50, 100 restaurants, because the tongue is very, very difficult to control. So in that way, you can see if you are engaging, so since the senses cannot be controlled unless engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. We have to underline this line, this statement. The senses cannot be controlled unless if it is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. And it is our foremost important duty to engage the senses in devotional service. So Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevana, Bhakti, Ruchite. The definition of Bhakti is, what is Bhakti? Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam, Bhakti, Uchate. It is said that Bhakti means engagement of the purified senses in the service of the Lord. So this is one of the sure-cut formula to control our senses. Artificially, we cannot control our senses, but gradually, if you are engaging, like you are offering the bhoga to the Lord and honoring the prasadam, we are offering flowers, we are offering incense, and whatever through our karmendriya and jnanendriya, we are doing some seva for the Lord, then the senses slowly become subdued. Going to the second paragraph, herein Lord Brahma indicates that instead of going to the forest with uncontrolled senses, it is better and more secure to enjoy the senses in the service of the Lord. So Brahma is actually saying that there is no use that you are in the forest. But if you are in the household life, because your senses are controlled and you are engaging in the service of the Lord, you will be totally protected. Even household life can do no harm to a self-controlled person acting in this way. It cannot force him into material bondage. So everything is in our hand, we can say. If you are willing to do seva through our senses, automatically what happens? Automatically the senses will be controlled. So Prabhupada quotes again, Srila Rupa Goswami's further reference on this point. Iha yasya hare dasya karmana manasa gira niklasapi avastaso jivan muktasa uchyate. That means, what is the meaning of this verse? Regardless of one's circumstances, karmana manasa, if one fully engages his activities, mind and words in the service of the Lord, he should be understood jivan muktasa uchyate. He is already a liberated person. So if Hare Dasi is a servant of the Lord and his activities, karmana, manasa, mind and gira, speech, is everything is engaged in the service of the Lord, he is called as a Jivan Mukta Sauchate. Even though he is in the material world, he is already liberated. An example is, practical example Prabhupada is giving is Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We know he was a magistrate in British government, and he was in a very, very responsible post where he has to give verdict for various cases. And he was very busy also, because that position is a very, very responsible position. But still, he was householder. He had a lot of children, and his son is, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, who is the spiritual guru of Sri Prabhupada. So, yes. So it is service to cause the expanding of mission of Srila Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is unique. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he sung a lot of bhajans. We are singing every day. And also he has written a book about the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he has sent in those days to Canada, library in Canada. So even though he was householder, he was fully expanding, and also he built that Yoga Peeth, that temple in Mayapur, where the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace. So like that, even though he was householder, he was fully engaged in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada quotes again another Acharya, Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur says, Durdandetriya Kala Sarpa Patali Proktahata Damshrateye. So here it is said that the sense organs are really our greatest enemies. See, people, so much because of the senses only, all whatever you see, everything is happening in this material world, whatever you see, restaurants or bar, dance, everything is just to satisfy the senses. So there is a big business happening in the world because of lack of sense control. And a person who is having sense control, he will not spend much money also, because he don't want any kind of enjoyment. Only he has money, he is spending money for food, shelter and cloth, and do for service for the Lord. So if you see in the household life, somebody is having sense control, he does not spend much Lakshmi also. In that way, he is saving more money than others. But people who are uncontrolled senses, they keep spending money because they are not able to satisfy their mind. So it is controlled to a venomous serpent. The uncontrolled senses are controlled compared to a venomous serpent. See, venomous serpent means it's a poisonous serpent. Anytime if you see a snake, no, we are afraid, right? We immediately run away from that place. And imagine if you see a serpent which is poisonous, like a cobra. Cobra is very poisonous. There are certain serpents which are very poisonous. The moment the people see, they run away. They don't stand there also. And anybody, very hardly few people can handle snakes. Even the people who are very brave, bold, if they see serpent, no, they will get afraid. That is senses are compared to a venomous serpent, means you can understand our sense position. It is compared how much we should be afraid of our senses. Venomous serpent. But if you are engaging the same serpent, senses in the service of the Lord, why we are afraid of serpent? Because it is having the poison in the teeth. So when it will bite means it will having problem. But what happens when you are engaging the service of the Lord? Very beautifully, Prabhupada has written, it is no longer fearful because the senses are engaging the service of the Lord. There is no need to fear. The same senses, no need to fear. You can see like when we go to some places, tourist places, the people take photos with serpent, they coil around their neck and they take photo. Why they are not afraid now? Because now there is no more fear of that serpent. It is already, the poison is removed. So they start playing with the same snake. They take photo and they take video and people think, oh, big snake, they are, without any fear they are keeping. But they are not having fear because the poison is already removed from that. Yes. So that is the way, the same senses, if it is engaged in the service of the Lord, then we need not actually fear for the senses, whether it is eye or nose, because it is not going to trouble us anymore. It's a very, very beautiful point, how the senses are compared to a poisonous serpent. At the same time, when the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, it is actually removed of these poison fangs and no need to fear. So the problem is stated in this purport and the solution is also given. And if we are in this level, then even if you are in the Grahastha life, then no need to fear. Like that, this Lord Brahma and Srila Prabhupada is giving that wonderful expression. And Prabhupada also further explains that devotees in Krishna consciousness movement move within this material world. We know these ISKCON temples are in the heart of the center of the city. Still, they are seeing people in the temple, they are seeing so many Grahastha people, so many people who are just enjoyment mode. But still, the devotees are not affected because their senses are fully engaged in the service of the Lord. So they are always aloof from the material world. It is like lotus leaf in the water, but the water is not touched by the lotus leaf. They are always living in a transcendental position. So this is Lord Brahma's this one, is advice and instruction to King Priyavarta that you need not fear as long as you are self-controlled. You can lead household life or you can take the position of the king. Hare Krishna. So if there are devotees, if there are any questions, comments, or you want to share your understanding or realization, you can please feel free to unmute yourself and express. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Anybody, Mataji's, Prabhuji's to add?
I think it's a very self-explanatory, Prabhu. Prabhupada has written very crystal clear.
Exactly. The main, I think, Prabhuji, the main is what Prabhuji wanted to express is even if you are in Grihastha or going back to the forest and doing the austerity, it is if your senses are controlled, then you can select the Grihastha or
yes.
You will not be affected. You will not be affected with that, and you can do the devotional service to the Lord according to your this. Right, Prabhuji?
Very true. Yes, very true.
Yes.
Very true. So on the other hand, if you are not controlled, then even if you go to a remote place, after going to the remote place, also the mind will contemplate about sense enjoyment.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So once you control your senses, that is the important thing. You can.
Yes, and the senses are already Prabhupada given. The senses can be controlled if you are serving, but is engaged in the service of the Lord. Like King Ambarish Maharaj used all the senses in the service of the Lord. Like it is said that Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanu Varnane. He's using his actually his eyes to see the beautiful form of the Lord, ears to hear the glories of the Lord, tongue to taste the prasadam, the nose to smell the aroma of the flowers and tulsi offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. And Alinganam, to embrace the devotees of the Lord, like the sense of touch. and using your legs to go to the holy
Temple
places, and
places.
also to do some service of the Lord for hand, to do some seva for the Lord, cleaning the temple. Like that, the Karmendriya and the Jnanendriya, Ambarish Maharaj, he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. So he was like a perfect elevated devotee. So in that way, the senses are always engaged every day. Like we are doing arati, we are smelling the flowers offered to the Lord, and offering the bhoga to the Lord. And when chances are coming, we are going to the nearby temple. We are doing some seva there, whatever possible from our side. In that way, actually, the senses gradually, yeah.
And as Prabhuji told, even tongue also by prasadam.
Yes,
Tasting
that is
prasadam,
most powerful.
most powerful. Yes, can be controlled.
Prabhupada said, just by the tongue, you're chanting Hare Krishna and tasting prasadam, only by these two processes you can perfect your life.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Very okay. Anybody else to add anything? I think Prabhuji, you can read the next verse.
Yes, Prabhu, yes.
Yes, one more verse number 18. Who is reading?
Shall I read, Prabhu?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes. Who requested first? Anybody? No problem, Madaji. Please go ahead. Verse number 18. Okay.
Anybody reading, or I will read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Madaji.
Mataji, you can read, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yah shat padnan vigijishamano gruheshu nirvishya yateta purvam yakshat padnan vijigishamano gruheshu nirvishya yateta purvam athyeti durgashrita ujitarim kshineshu kamam vichared vipakshit Athyeti durgashrita urjitarim kshineshu kamam vicharet vipakshit. Translation 1. Who is situated in household life and who systematically conquers his mind and five sense organs is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies after one has been trained in household life and his lusty desires have decreased. He can move anywhere without danger. Translation once again. One who is situated in a household life and who systematically conquers his mind and five sense organs is like a king in his fortress who conquers his powerful enemies after one has been trained in household life and his lusty desires have decreased. He can move anywhere without danger. Purport. The Vedic system of 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas is very scientific, and its entire purpose is to enable one to control the senses. Before entering household life, Grihastha Ashrama, a student is fully trained to become Jitendriya, a conqueror of the senses. Such a mature student is allowed to become a householder, and because he was first trained in conquering his senses, he retires from household life and becomes Vanaprastha. As soon as the strong waves of youthful life are past and he reaches the verge of a old age at 50 years or slightly more. Then after being further trained, he accepts sannyasa. He is then a fully learned and renounced person who can move anywhere and everywhere without fear of being captivated by material desires. The senses are considered very powerful enemies. As a king in a strong fortress can conquer powerful enemies, so a householder in a grihastha ashrama household life can conquer the lusty desires of youth and be very secure when he takes Vanaprastha and Sannyasa. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Madam. So continuing the verse number 18. So here again, Lord Brahma is continuing his convictions, the explanation to King Priyavrata Maharaj about like a king. So one who is situated in the household life and who systematically conquers his mind and 5 sense organs is like a king in his fortress. So an analogy is given. So who is conquering his sense organs, all these 5 sense organs, and his mind? Like in the previous verse, it is said that it's 6 wives, right? And same, if he is able to conquer, he is like a king who is in his fortress, who conquers his powerful enemies. Because this, who are enemies here, we already know these 5 sense organs, including the mind, are considered as powerful enemies. And who can conquer this in this household life in a systematic way? He is like a king in his fortress. After one has been trained in the household life and his lusty desires have decreased, what happens eventually when people are trying to control their senses and mind over a period of time? Gradually, the lust will start decreasing because they are getting trained in that. Then he can move anywhere without danger. So these are all, whatever these past 2 verses are very, very practical. Srimad Bhagavatam, it will help us in our progress in spiritual life because it's already giving the hint how to progress and how to conquer the senses. All these things are very clearly explained by the translation as well as in the purport by Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
So we'll go to the purport. The Vedic system of 4 varnas, we know that 4 varnas and 4 ashramas is very scientific. The 4 varnas we know, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And the 4 ashramas also we know, that Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. So it is together called as Varnashrama Dharma. Varnashrama Dharma means it is actually from a Vedic culture, it is very scientific. And what is the purpose of this Varnashrama Dharma? Its entire purpose is to enable one to control the senses. Because this is the foundation of spiritual life. The foundation of spiritual life is to control the senses. Whether we are even a Christian or Muslim or Hindu, or we are in Krishna consciousness, anybody want to develop in their spiritual life means, first thing is one has to control the senses. And out of the all senses, which is the most powerful senses is the tongue. And to control the tongue is the biggest challenge. You can sometimes control your eyes, you can control your nose. Sometimes you don't want fragrant things, it's okay for you to live. It's not difficult that I want only perfumes or this. Without perfume also we can live. And sometimes without good music also, our ears, okay, we can handle the ear also. Like that, sometimes people are also, they become, brahmachari without any association with opposite sex also, they can live. So out of all the 5, but tongue is a challenge. Tongue, you cannot, even if you become a brahmachari, suppose. Sometimes you see something tasty, the tongue will ask. So imagine for them, if it is tempting, what about grahasthas? So that's why I said, like we are seeing in every area, there are so many restaurants because it is considered to be one of the profitable business. We are surprised, one street, there are like 7 to 8 restaurants within one street. How they are earning money? They are earning money because our tongue is weak. Everywhere, you go to any tourist place, you go to, what is in any tourist place? Only food. You go to any shopping mall, what is there? Some shops and full of restaurants. So even you can control any senses, but controlling this tongue is very, very difficult and very challenging. But as long as a person is not controlling the tongue, he cannot control his sexual urges also, because Prabhupada said these are all in the straight line. If you control the tongue only, then other things will be controlled. Otherwise, see, all the senses can be controlled, but tongue is difficult to control. But if you don't control the tongue, you cannot control any other senses, because the moment we eat like kind of very rich food, automatically it will activate other senses very more powerfully. So that tongue is controlled in Krishna consciousness by honoring the prasad, by taking only which food offered to the Lord. Automatically the tongue becomes controlled. When the tongue is controlled, automatically all other senses also become controlled. This is a secret. That's why Prabhupada said, only by tongue you can develop in spiritual life. By tongue is 2 functions of the tongue. One is tasting. One function of the tongue is tasting, and one function of the tongue is vibrating, means speaking. So with the tongue tasting, you taste Krishna Prasad, and for the tongue is vibrating, speaking, speak about Krishna Katha or chant the holy name of the Lord. So both problem you convert into solution, and thereby you develop progress in Krishna consciousness. And before entering household life, Grahastha Ashram, what happens in Varnashrama Dharma? First of all, a student in the earlier days, before this LKG, UKG came, the Western education came, there was like Gurukula system, where the child, I think 5 years or something, he will be put under the Guru, where he is getting a kind of austere lifestyle, getting up early in the morning and reading the scriptures and also reading basic living lifestyle and everything, and some practical skills also, like archery, carpentry, like that. There was no like professional engagement in those days. They will learn some skill. With that skill, they will earn money. So, and then they will also learn about God. So then student is trained with that austerity. What he becomes by that training. Anything, if you give training, it is possible. Today you are seeing people in Olympics, they are running very fast in swimming. How they become? Because they are trained. We are simply sitting in the home. At the time, they are going for everyday training. So like that, the student is trained in the brahmachari life. What he becomes Jitendriya. Jitendriya means he conquers victory over the senses. Indriya, Jitendriya. He has conquered the senses. So when he is conquering the senses, what happens? He completes his brahmachari life, and then he enters into Grahastha life. And when he is entering into Grahastha life, because he has already trained, he will not live an uncontrolled life after that. He was first trained in conquering senses, so easily he can have a regulated householder life because of the training he has acquired. Then, because of the training in the childhood, there is also a saying in Tamil also, what does not come in the age of 5 will not come in the age of 50. So whatever the child learns at the young age, that will be remaining in his life throughout his life. So when he will retire from the household life and becomes Vanaprastha, and as soon as the strong waves of youthful life are present, he reaches the very verge of 50, old age of 50 years or slightly more, he will take Vanaprastha. And normally the youthful stage is very, very powerful because there is hormonal changes in the body. When there is hormonal changes, the sense gratification urges will be very strong in the youth body. That's why, in ISKCON and all, they take classes for the college students or the people who have completed college and entering into the job sector. They give this journey of self-discovery course, the essence of Bhagavad Gita, which has transformed many youth life. Because at that time, they are like powerful tsunami. They are very powerful at that time. The body is full of energy, full of hormones and other things. They can change the whole world upside down. That much power they have. So that time, if you train and divert them towards spiritual path, they can do wonders in spiritual path also. So Prabhupada disciples, if you have seen, all the Prabhupada disciples are like 21, 22, 23. All the disciples, Prabhupada sent them to America, London, to Germany, to South America, and they all opened temples there because they were the youth. But whereas when we become gradually old, what happens? The energy in the body reduces. We get a lot of bodily problems. We have problems with the jib bone. We have problems with the joints. We have problem with our vision. We have problem with our hearing capability. So hardly we can, do much in, spiritually, progress. But whatever we are doing in the mid stage of life will greatly help. But of course, Prabhupada is an exception because he was fully having the blessings of Krishna. At the age of 70, he went to America and established. So in the whole world, if you see, hardly people achieve anything after 70 years. So there is a survey done that how many people achieved something great after 70 years. There are like 5 to 6 people, and Prabhupada is also listed in international way that somebody who has achieved after becoming old. Prabhupada is, I think, in 3rd or 4th position. Mahatma Gandhi is also there because he fought for Indian freedom. And there are like, you see the KFC chicken, that guy also, he opened that restaurant after age 50 or 60 only. So like that, in that list, Prabhupada's name is there because he opened this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Because hardly people can achieve anything after the age of once crossing 50, 55. People don't want to take risk after that. People don't change job also after 50. And people who are above 50, the company also will not recruit because they know these people will not do anything. They will come and just sit in the seat. So,
Correct.
yeah, so not much productivity, and they say you retire also now, no need for you in the company because they know. But elevated souls, they achieve, like Prabhupada is there. So many people have achieved like that. When you are having that mercy of the Lord, there is an exemption. But common rule is the youth people are very powerful. Everybody in the youth stage because they are very having good health and good energy in the body. So That time, because they are trained properly, they will have a regulated life. So that training is very, very important for people, children in Krishna consciousness, so that they don't get misguided or go take a wrong path because of their extra energy. So thus, after being trained, he accepts sannyas. So that was in the previous yugas, and of course, Kali Yuga sannyas is prohibited because people are not qualified to take sannyas, because people don't have controlling the senses properly. And he is then fully learned and a renounced person who can move anywhere and everywhere without fear of being captivated by material. So it's a one beautiful concept here. See, once you conquer these material desires, like it's already you uninstalled your lust. Like in the software, if there is a virus, you put an antivirus and you already put it in quarantine and delete it. And that virus will not come again because it is already deleted. And the virus. So one person, if he is already, handling this lust and material desires, if it is uninstalled from our mind, what happens? Then there is no fear of that virus. There is no more fear of lust because it is already eradicated from our mental mindset. So even if you see somebody is very wealthy, you are not tempted. Even if you see a beautiful man or lady, you are not tempted by that time. And there is no more. When you are not tempted, there is no envy or jealousy also. Because when lust is going, automatically all anarthas will go. Greediness will go, anger will grow, and all the secondary anarthas, they also will go. Lust is the primary. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavata, Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna, Samudbhava, Mahasano, Mama, Papma, Vidyeva, Vairinam. So the lust is the root cause of all sinful activities. Kamesha, it's coming from Rajoguna. So that lust is actually the challenge. Sadhaka has to work out very hard to remove the lust. So by constantly engaging the devotional service. So senses are considered very powerful enemies. As a king in the strong fortress, can again Prabhupada writing the same statement, senses are considered very powerful enemies. So we have to remember this statement. The senses are considered as very powerful. So our enemy is not outside, our enemy is within us only. Wherever we are going, our enemy is with us in the form of senses and mind. So as a king in the strong fortress can conquer powerful enemies, king is having a proper fortress. Those days, first they will make a strong fortress around the city. Even if you see the Great Wall of China, there is a big fence around that mountain. So fortress is very important. So a king in the strong fortress, what happens? He can easily conquer powerful enemies. So a householder, a grasta ashram, household life, he can also conquer the lusty desires of the youth and be very secure when he takes vanaprastha and sannyas. So Prabhupada always, he made a point that in Western countries, the boy and girl, they mix very freely. It's not like India. They can go together, they will stay in the same room, everything. So Prabhupada, when he started this ISKCON movement, when he will see some boy and girl, they are very freely mixing, immediately he will call them and tell, okay, if you like each other, you should get married in the coming months. Okay. Till the marriage, you should not be like this. And he will personally also conduct the marriage, and so that, their senses are controlled and regulated, and they lead a very peaceful life. He will not allow them to freely mix and move like that. So immediately he will arrange for a marriage. So in that way, what happens? Their powerful lusty things become subsided after accepting the household life, and they can be very secure. And because of the proper training they received, they can easily take the vanaprastha and sannyas life. Also, practical example I have seen. There are real-time examples. I have seen many students who are studying colleges. They are studying and staying in that ISKCON centers when they are studying college. I have seen those people, they are very strong in Krishna consciousness because they got good training when they are studying in the college. In the evening, they go in the college. After studying, they go to the temple, they learn kirtan, they learn cooking, and even they learn very expert cooking. And you can see those people, they are very much progressing in spiritual life, and they're very much regulated in the household life. So marriage itself is not wrong, but the proper training is very important. So if you are staying like that and they are properly trained, I've seen many devotees like that who have stayed in ISKCON centers while they're studying their engineering or medical college, and then they are leading a very ideal household life with they have all the skills like cooking, nice kirtan, because they are trained in the temple like that. So in that way, that's what Prabhupada is saying. He can easily conquer the lusty desires of youth and be very secure when he takes vanaprastha and sannyas. So very nice, beautiful points, very practical points, very important points, and we should know, and we should also explain this to our children Otherwise, what happens? The sense gratification, as Krishna says in 18th chapter, it is like nectar in the beginning, but it will end like poison. But whereas the spiritual life, when we are cultivating, it is like poison in the beginning, but it will end like a nectar. So how we should end? We always want to end like nectar, not like poison. When our life will finish, we want nectar, not poison. So in that way, we have to know that the spiritual life we are constantly practicing, it will end like a nectar for us. So it is very important that we are constantly reading this Srimad Bhagavatam, taking the lessons and implementing in our day-to-day life so that we can enjoy that nectar while we are living this body in a very peaceful and happy state in Krishna consciousness. Okay, 10:30, Hare Krishna. So any devotees have, any questions or comments, please feel free to can discuss this one here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Welcome, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, I have some, I need some clarification related to three things, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Related to sannyasi and parityagi and muni also. So
Yes.
sannyas, okay, can you just give the difference between sannyas?
Sannyas means Mataji, he will renounce the family life. Vanaprastha means he is together with his wife and traveling to holy places and a little more stronger in spiritual life because the children are grown up after 50, right, Mataji? But sannyas means he has to renounce his wife also. Okay, renounce his wife means after sannyas he can meet his mother. But in his lifetime, after taking sannyas, he can never meet his wife after that. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said in Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited because people are not qualified to take sannyas because the senses are not that much controlled. Okay, but what is the sannyas protocol is, the sannyasi will not have any relationship with any woman. That is called sannyas. But only thing is, he can meet his children and he can meet his mother. Two things are allowed after sannyas. So Prabhupada also met his children, right? Prabhupada met his children, but Prabhupada never met his wife after taking sannyas. Okay, so because what happens, sometimes the old memories can come and again they can go back to household life. So that's why for sannyas, it is not allowed like that. And Muni means Mataji is like an yogi, he's an expert thinker. Pantastu Kodi Satavatsa Sampro Vayo Ratapi Muni Pungavana. Like that in Brahma Samhita is there. Muni means who is an expert thinker who tries to understand absolute truth by his thinking process. Like philosophical speculation. Muni. Muni means expert thinkers. That's what Prabhupada has said. But they are also in the renounced order. We say the Vishwamitra Muni. Right? They do tapasya, right? Vishwamitra. Yeah. So they are in a different stage, Vishwamitra Muni. Like that. But sometimes Vishwamitra Muni also fell down, no, Mataji?
Yes.
Like that. So they can sometimes fall down also. Because they are not engaged in the transcendental service of the devotional service of the Lord. So there is chance that they can follow. So Muni is like they are doing more of Jnana Yoga and they are trying to understand absolute truth through that way, not by bhakti. That's why that Brahma Samhita says, Pantastu Kodi Sadavatra Samparamyo Vayo Ratapi Manaso Muni Pungavana. The Muni who is thinking at the speed of the wind, speed of light for millions of years, still he cannot understand Krishna. Because he did not engage in bhakti. So that is Muni. Third one, what is that?
Parityagi, like renounced person.
Renounced person. Parityagi, in the 18th chapter beginning, you see Krishna, Arjuna is asking the same question, no, Mataji? If you see the 18th chapter, which is, what is the difference between the first one, Parityagi, Tyaga, renunciation and sannyas. So yesterday we had that class. You can hear, Mataji, I posted that link very clearly. We discussed in the first section what is actually sannyas and what is tyaga. There are a lot of examples given in that class also. So maybe even if you just hear the first 5 minutes, you can understand very clearly what is that parityagi, renunciation, and what is sannyas, the difference which Arjuna is asking. Krishna will clarify in the verse number 2, 3, and 4.
Okay, because parityagi we are already we are not thinking about the results of our activities and completely detachment. But in the sannyasa, someday maybe they have some they have some. It can be a desire for something, no? That is the real understanding, no, Prabhuji?
Yes, detailed one, Mataji. Just that.
I will see, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Yeah, you can hear that. It is with a lot of examples. There are some slides in that. In short, we say that sannyas means they will give up kamya karma, means karma related to the material duties for sense gratification. They will give up kamya karma. But tyaga means giving up the results. They will do kamya karma, both the things they will do, but they will give up the results of both the activities. They will not be attached. Called renunciation. So that example, you can see what are the different types of karma. There are 5 types of karma: nitya karma, naimitika karma, and there is other karmas like kamika, this karma. 5 types are there. I put a slide for that. And what is the position of a tyagi as well as what is the position of sannyasi, how they will handle these karmas. Okay,
related to the Muni, because I got the doubt that because in Bhagavad Gita also, you are told the deep thinker, but in Krishna was telling in Mahabharata also related to one Muni that he is always in the completely in a Krishna consciousness. So then I got a doubt.
Sitadhira Muni Uchyate, right, Mataji? Second chapter. Sitadhir Muni Uchyate, like that. Sitadhira, right? So, Mataji, like if you say Atma, when you say Atma, the word refers to body in some verses. Same Atma refers to mind in some verses. And same Atma refers to the spirit soul. Like that, when you use the word Muni also, according to which context it is used, there will be kind of different meaning. But Prabhupada generally says Muni means expert thinkers. But there are some Muni who will be like very in the transcendental position, where Krishna is telling the verse, I can say, I don't know, the second chapter, Sthitadhira means Sthitadhira Muni Uchyate, like that Krishna will say.
2.56 Prabhuji, that one.
2.56, no? That one. Yes, a man, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Prajahati Yada Kaman, Sarva, Vata Manogati, Atmani Eva Tushta, Sthita Prajna Tad Uchyate. So, no, Muni word is not here, Mata. In this not there. Maybe another.
The purport was there, Prabhuji.
In the purport it is there, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, even I think somewhere Krishna also uses this word Muni also. But Prabhupada at many places, he is telling as Muni only. Like Muni means expert thinker. And we also know that Brahma Samhita verse, no? But the very famous verse we know.
I understood.
Yeah, that is like saying, no, Pantastu Kodi, Sadavatsara Sampargamyo. So it is based on where it is used, Mati. This verse is 2.56. Dukkeshu Anudigna Manaha, Sukeshu Vigata Spraha, Vitaraga Bayakroda, Sthitadhir Muni Ruchate. 2.56. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst of 3-fold miseries are related to there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger is called a sage. Here it is called a sage. Muni means sage. Of a steady mind. So, Prabhupada writes in the translation, the word Muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation. See, here very clearly Prabhupada writes, the word Muni means one who can agitate his mind in various ways for mental speculation without coming to a factual conclusion. It is said that every Muni has a different angle of vision, and unless one Muni differs from other Munis, he cannot be called as a Muni in strict sense. So, Prabhupada is writing, here Muni is different. Prabhupada saying the Sthitadhir Muni is always fixed in Krishna consciousness. So, they're like Prabhupada writing 2 kinds of Muni, but normal Muni is different. Sthitadhir Muni, who is fixed in Krishna consciousness.
Krishna consciousness, okay.
Yes, Sthitadhir Muni.
That is why I got confusion.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Mother. Most welcome, Mother. Very nice.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mother. Thank you for your questions also. Hare Krishna. So that 18th chapter I posted, Mother. If you have time, you can hear that.
Yeah, yesterday's class was Prabhuji, that one.
Yeah, yesterday class. Actually, we completed 18 chapters, Mataji. 18 chapters as in the form of acronyms, easy to understand. And 18 chapters completed by Krishna's mercy yesterday. And next week, we are going to see all the 18 chapters together in one session. Like complete chapter-wise summary will be the last session next Friday. We are going to
Friday, I will try, Prabhuji, because
you can attend. Otherwise, we will post the recording also. Later also you can hear.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Any
Thank you very
welcome, Sheikh Madhu.
Anybody else? No, it's already everything is clear, Prabhuji. Clearly explained everything, Prabhuji. So it's thank you very much, Prabhuji. So
glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Saturday also we are lucky. Thank you. As usual, Victorian class from you. Thank you, Prabhuji, very much. So
thank you. Giving the opportunity also, Krishna.
Yeah. So we'll thank you 3 times Krishna mantra for Sivana Prabhuji as
All
well
the
as
devotees, Prabhu. We'll thank all the devotees and we
Yes,
pray for all
all
the devotees'
devotees.
spiritual progress. We'll
Today's
chant
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Rama,
Hare.
Hare Hare.
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Vancha
So,
Vischa Hindu
pass
Devacha
into
Prana Pavalita Vaishnavebhyo Namo.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Bhagavatam ki jai. Tulsi ki jai. Jai.
Bhagavatam ki
Glory
Sivana
to
Krishna ki jai. Glories to the
Prabhupada. Jai. Right. So thank you all. I will post this Bhagavatam also in the group. Maybe you can share it with others because I think a lot of useful things we discussed today. So I will post this recording also. So you can
Yes.
share it. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. And today evening we'll have Chaitanya Charitamrita class. So
Yes.
please join at 7 p.m. local time, 9:30 p.m. Indian time. Hare Krishna.
YouTube.
Thank you.
I will stop now.
Yes.
Hare. Yeah, bro. Thank you, bro.
Thank
So
you.
thank you all. Hare Krishna. See you in the evening. Thank you, Sri
Thank
Kumar, bro. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna. Thank you all devotees. Hare Krishna.